Hello and welcome to Unacademy, a one-stop destination for the English medium civil services aspirants. Why are the Indians accused of being illegal migrants deported by the Trump administration in inhuman ways, handcuffed, chained, denied basic rights, deported in a US military airplane and not in a domestic charter? Is United States justified in deporting illegal migrants from its soil? Is India under legal obligation to accept these illegal migrants back from the United States? Is the government of India succumbing to the blackmail of the new dispensation in the United States? These are the critical issues that we shall be discussing today with our international relations expert Chethan sir. Chethan sir, briefly summarize us with what is happening between India and United States when it comes to these deportations.
Basically, what we are seeing is Donald Trump being Donald Trump. He had made the immigration issue a top electoral priority right through his presidential campaign. We saw this even during the previous term of Trump presidency as well. So in a way, he's trying to fulfill those electoral commitments. But is it happening for the first time? No. Even under Biden administration, there were illegal migrants deported. According to Department of Homeland Security, just last year, 165,000 illegal migrants were deported to more than 145 countries. That included a lot of migrants towards India as well. But this time, what we are seeing different is the manner in which the deportation is taking place. The way in which illegal migrants have been handcuffed, chained, denied basic amenities. Reports are coming in that they were not even allowed to access toilets. They have been denied basic food and water for several hours in these long-hour flights. So this is a clear violation of the international customary rights, which is available to every human. And this is where I think the Trump administration is being different. Maybe it's a symbolic message that Trump is sending out to other countries that you need to tackle illegal migration. And also maybe it's more of a PR stunt. He's trying to appease to his electorate, trying to prove to his domestic audience that he's delivering on the electoral commitments. But also, to be fair to Trump and to the US has been a victim of large-scale illegal migration. Over decades, it has received millions of illegal migrants from South America, Latin America, from Asia, from West Asia as well. And India of late, what is concerning is it has become a top source for illegal migration into the US. So in that regard, I think US has a sovereign right to deport them. But the question is about the manner in which it's being done.
And ironical, United States is a land of immigrants.
Yeah.
And now they're facing also the acute problem of illegal migration. But the point is, when tariffs were imposed on Canada, Mexico, and these tariffs were not imposed on India, although many would have expected that India would also be imposed with these tariffs, it was considered to be a diplomatic win of the New Delhi government, saying we have waded off these tariffs and we are not the victims of these new theatrics imposed by the US administration. How would then the government of India respond to the critics when they would say that this is then the failure of the Indian government to diplomatically raise this matter with the United States, and possibly if illegal migrants should have been deported back to India, but it could have been done in a humane manner, not in the manner it was done right now?
Exactly. Regarding the tariffs, I think the celebration that you might see within the government circles is a little premature. We are just seeing the start of Trump's erratic policies, as we can call it. Because don't forget, last time when he was the president, he did impose tariffs on India as well. It led to a trade war between India and the US. He withdrew the GSP status that was given to India, which hit Indian exports to the US. And with regard to BRICS, Trump has already threatened tariffs on all the BRICS countries if they push de-dollarization. So I don't think India is escaping the tariff war from the US. Next week, Prime Minister Modi is traveling to US, meeting Donald Trump. I think there's a lot expected over there. Maybe Trump administration is going easy and slow just because of the upcoming visit. There are important defense deals to be signed. And also with regard to illegal migration as well, Trump has been a little easy on India compared to other countries. For example, if you see how he treated Colombia just a few days back, when Colombia raised an objection about the methods that were being used in the military planes which were being used, Trump threatened Colombia with tariffs, blackmailed Colombia, and basically arm twisted the country to accept the illegal migrants. We haven't seen that approach with India as of now, but there's no guarantee that may not happen.
Trump is viewed as a transactional leader, but if you look at it this way, he may not be transactional purely. He is basically pushing the countries on the negotiating table and then negotiating better. This is something that he did with Canada. This is something that he's doing with Mexico.
True.
How would you see Trump negotiating with India for its own benefit? Because India is an important player for United States to potentially threaten China. And that is how we have seen groupings such as Quad.
Yeah.
India is an important player for United States policy towards keeping China at the back burner. So he can't antagonize India. But right now, with these actions, he's doing that.
True. Let's not forget, Trump is a good businessman. At the end of the day, he has been a businessman. So his transactions are always transactional. He looks at what he can gain He looks at reciprocity and sometimes complete dominance, which is a pure imperialist approach as well. So with India as well, we can't expect any favors from Trump administration. In the past, we have seen examples of this. Take, for example, how Trump administration forced the Modi government to follow the sanctions on Iran. Though we had never followed unilateral sanctions, for the first time we were forced to do that. So yes, US needs India in the Indo-Pacific to counter China, to counterbalance the threats present in the Indo-Pacific. But at the same time, India has a lot of dependency as well. Maybe one reason why the Indian government has not raised the deportation issue strongly is because, don't forget, we have a lot of legal migrants going to the US, where lakhs of students every year are dependent on the F visa. A lot of Indian workers are dependent on H-1B visa. And data from immigration authorities in US shows that 75% of H-1B visas are given for Indian workers. So India has a fear that if we raise the illegal migration issue and deportation issue strongly, then Trump might cut down the legal route as well, which might unfairly punish our students and workers, which might have an economic impact as Indian companies heavily depend on H-1B visas. So I don't think we can expect any favors from Trump administration. It's a purely transactional business, as you correctly pointed out. But I think India should play its cards very safely, especially on the question of the manner in which the illegal migrants have been deported. I think we should raise this diplomatically, if not publicly, without making a public scene. At least when Modi meets Trump next week, the issue should be brought up that we are willing to accept them. India has already said there are 18,000 people on the list who have gone through the due process. They have exhausted all their appeals in the US immigration process. Now they have to be deported. And India has started the vetting process to verify whether they are Indians. So we are cooperating in that regard. So we do have a diplomatic leverage or a leeway at least to point out to Trump administration that you can't mistreat Indians. Because if you look at international customary law, human rights are available to everyone, be it refugees, legal migrants, illegal migrants, irrespective of your caste, your religion, place of birth, sex. And the Universal Declaration of Human Rights even mentions other grounds as well, which includes your immigration status. Whether you're a legal migrant, illegal migrant, you are entitled to the same rights, the basic rights, which the US administration has been denying. I think on these grounds, we have a valid point, a diplomatic point, which can be raised in the talks.
United States is well within its right to deport the illegal migrants. And once the nationality of these illegal migrants is certified, then it is binding on India also to accept these illegal migrants. But specifically, if 104 Indians have been deported from United States, most of them are from Punjab, Haryana, Gujarat.
Yeah.
What is so peculiar about these states that a large number of people who are illegal migrants happen to be from these states?
It's not just United States. Even if you look at other countries as well, look at Europe or West Asia region, Australia as well, most of the illegal migrants from India are coming from these pockets, specifically Gujarat, as you pointed out, Punjab, Haryana belt, even Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. The way I see it, I think there is a deeper socio-economic problem here. Maybe in places like Punjab, Haryana, the lack of education, lack of employment opportunities, the poor standard of living is pushing people into this desperation mode where they are very eager, desperate to get out of the country. And we have seen alarming numbers coming from Europe and other countries as well, where they have seen a huge spike in the last few years, especially post-pandemic, regarding the illegal migrants they are detaining. For example, Austria, Poland, they've all complained to India, raised this issue regarding the large-scale illegal migration which is happening. So one is the deep-rooted economic problem. Maybe there aren't enough jobs in India. We haven't solved the basic problems of education. We haven't given enough skills to our youth, which is pushing them to this stage of desperation where they seek a better opportunity. Or maybe in places in Gujarat where you see these pockets where illegal migration has been rampant. I think it's more of the aspiration, living the foreign dream, the American dream, and people resort to any method which includes the illegal route as well, because many of them have tried the legal route. There have been investigators.
But the waiting time is so huge that they can't wait.
Yeah, or maybe they don't have the skills and they don't meet the visa eligibility requirements. They get visas denied, and eventually they end up taking the illegal route with the help of these traffickers and these rogue travel agencies.
Okay, now let's specifically look at what are the options available with India.
Yeah.
How should India deal with this illegal migration?
I think first, the solution should begin at home. We need to introspect why this is happening.
Because why I asked you this question is, one, there is illegal migration from India to other countries, and then there is legal migration as well. Look at the reports coming from the Home Ministry. Lakhs and lakhs of citizens every year renounce their citizenship when they move to the greener pastures of Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and United States.
True.
So there is migration of people with skills.
Yeah.
With degrees, wealthy, who could have contributed immensely to the growth of India.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, there is also migration of people who are not skilled that much, semi-skilled, unskilled from India to the other parts of the world. How should the government and policymakers tackle this problem?
This shows the deeper socio-economic problems we have in our country. That's why I said the solution should begin at home before we blame other countries. Yes, we need to tackle this with US and other countries, the way in which they are dealing with our illegal migrants. But I think first we need to address the root of the problem. As I said, one, the lack of opportunities in India, right, starting from jobs and education and skills. I think this is very important, which gives aspiration and hope for the youth. When they don't see those opportunities, that's when they seek out these options abroad. Now, why do you think hundreds of Indians went to fight for the Russian army? Many of them were tricked and deceived, but eventually they knew what they were getting into at some point, and yet they decided to stay on. And almost a dozen Indians were killed in the Ukraine front. And look at Southeast Asia as well. A lot of Indians, thousands of them have been tricked to work for these cyber criminal cartels. Yes, there is an element of deception and force as well, but many Indians still opt for that, which shows the degree of desperation which is present. I think the deeper socio-economic problems have to be addressed. And also the government should crack down on these middlemen, these travel agencies, which have been duping people, taking lakhs of rupees, crores of rupees from them. And people are taking these risky routes. You might have seen Donkey. And,
I didn't see, but I read what this movie is all about.
Yeah, the risky immigration routes they take, putting their lives at risk. And we've seen such incidents where a Gujarati family lost their lives when they were crossing from Canada to US. Even from the Mexican border, many Indians have lost their lives. So we need to introspect why people are taking this risk.
What are these routes through which illegal migrants enter United States?
One is primarily through the southern borders from Mexico, where there are a lot of organized criminal cartels that operate, drug cartels, which also engage in human trafficking. So most of the illegal migrants are often taken into South America, Central America, countries like Colombia or Peru or Nicaragua. From there, they are shipped into Mexico eventually. There is a notorious corridor in Central America where they make a very risky route, usually on foot, crossing through these dense forests where areas are dominated by criminal gangsters, right? So they overcome all these threats, cross over into Mexico, and from Mexico they cross over into the US. There are underground tunnels which have been dug up. So no wonder Trump calls for a wall to be built. And the other route is the northern route through Canada. Canada has easy immigration policies. So what these middlemen do, they usually get the visas to Canada, get them to Canada legally. From there, they'll try to push them across into US. But eventually, these illegal migrants have to take the risk on their own, because traffickers will get them to a certain point. Then it's entirely up to them to make the crossing. And people are willing to take the risk. And that's what really shocks and surprises most Indians as well. That why are people taking such risk? There was a study as well, which shows that people in Gujarat and Punjab and Haryana, they don't really see a difference between legal and illegal migration. For them, at the end of the day, they just have to get into another country. Doesn't matter whether it's a legal route or illegal route. Maybe at some level, they're not aware of the consequences, the legal consequences they might face. I think this is where more awareness has to be spread by the government as well. We do have some initiatives. The MEA has some initiatives under the Immigration Act. There is an initiative to train and give a orientation for immigrant workers. But that is primarily for those who are legally migrating. Illegal migration is hardly, it's not documented, it's not under check. I think this is where we need to crack down on the middlemen and the travel agencies, the consultancies which are offering these services for money. Sarmad sir, I have a question for you. Since you deal with polity, can you enlighten us on the legal framework that surrounds migration? Will these illegal migrants be prosecuted when they come back to India?
No, the government of India will just have to go through the antecedents of these people to check whether they have any criminal past, and then they will be escorted back to their homes. What many people are arguing for is the principle of non-refoulement, which is an important aspect under United Nations Convention on the Status of Refugees. But that applies in simple terms. If there is an illegal migration from country A to B, then this B should not deport these migrants back if their lives are in danger in country A from which they have fled.
Right.
Now, these Indians who have deported, who have illegally migrated to United States, their lives are not in danger in India. So United States is under obligation to send them back. It's not illegal because the principle of non-refoulement does not apply in this case.
Right. That is specifically for refugees.
That is specific for refugees and those two whose lives would be in danger if we deport them back to the country of their origin.
Right.
Because that would affect their life and dignity.
Right.
But in this case, that does not apply because under no circumstance are these people, their lives in danger in India.
Right. And there have been reports that Dr. Jaishankar is about to address the Rajya Sabha on this issue. And there are reports from MEA that we might consider a law on safe migration. So if at all such a legal framework is envisioned, what do you think should be the parameters of that? Should we abide by the international framework? There is a global compact for migration, which we have signed.
The basis of the domestic law has to be the international law as well, if we are a signatory to that convention. And as much as possible, the law has to be liberal in a sense that it should not criminalize people for migrating to other lands. But yes, it has to tackle the illegal migration because that is not in favor of any country for that matter.
And finally, what's your sense of Trump? The first 2 weeks have been very eventful. How do you think the next 4 years?
There is an ancient Chinese curse which says, may you live in interesting times. These are interesting times. Let's see how it goes. Thank you so much for staying with us on this very quick, short and interesting discussion on the deportation of illegal migrants from United States back to India. If you enjoyed and got benefited from this conversation, do let us know in the comment section. Until then, all the best.
Unacademy. Let's crack it.